What's up guys, it's Ian here, back today with another video, and today I'm here to bring you just a quick series of questions from one of my subscribers. They had a few questions that they dropped in the comments, and I wanted to start off by saying thank you for your questions in the comment section. I do see all the comments and I appreciate the suggestions. It gives me motivation and it also gives me a topic, something to talk about. I'm sure that I've discussed all of these topics before in previous videos, but they may be buried in longer videos, so hopefully this helps somebody. So this question is from San Ju. They said that they would love to see kind of a day of my routine. I'll probably put that in a separate video, but then they asked what kind of stretches or warm-ups I do before each workout, what foods I eat to maintain my physique, supplements that I'm taking, where I get inspiration from for exercise, and then how to put together a program. Let's tackle these one at a time. We'll start from the top. Warming up before a workout is really going to depend what the first exercise or first few exercises in that workout are going to be. Some exercises that are less complex, less demanding, I might just walk on a treadmill for 5 minutes, just try to elevate my core body temperature. Essentially, by elevating your core body temperature, you're able to make the muscles less viscous or more fluid, right? You're able to help the muscles move more smoothly just by increasing core body temperature. So that's less viscous. If you think about it, syrup is more viscous than water, it's less fluid. You want your muscles to be more fluid and less sticky before your workout, and that's going to help reduce injury risk, reduce subjective pain scores. That's going to help you stay healthier longer and probably also perform better. But reducing the injury risk and improving subjective pain scores are really the main reasons that I see for warming up, and of course increasing performance too. Some exercises, getting physically warmer, that's going to be all that it takes. If an exercise is more complicated, like a squat or a deadlift, I like to both get physically warmer and do at least a few sets of just body weight or empty bar, depending how cold I feel that day. If I had been moving around more earlier and I'm actually really warm going into it, maybe just a general warm up to elevate core body temperature to improve the tissue quality and make the muscles more fluid. That might be all it takes. Or potentially throwing on that empty bar, doing a few sets with the empty bar. Maybe that's what it takes that day. Maybe you need additional sets with the empty bar, or taking additional light warm-up sets before you get towards your working sets. That might be fine. For something like just pull-ups or dips, more upper body calisthenics movements, I still like the general warm-up idea, just a little bit of cardio to increase the body temperature, and then after that just a lighter version of whatever you're going to do that day. So if your main exercise is weighted chin-ups, doing some body weight chin-ups, that's going to be a solid warm-up. If your main exercise is weighted dips, body weight dips. If you're still treating the body weight movements as your main exercises, maybe a scaled down version. If you're still just doing body weight pull-ups and chin-ups, maybe some horizontal body rows, that can be good. If you want to warm up for handstand push-ups, I'd just do regular push-ups on the floor, something like that, just to warm up those muscle groups involved, get that general warm-up in, and then get into that workout. Alright, so now we're going to talk about what kind of foods that I eat to maintain my physique. So this is an interesting question, both in terms of like what does it take to maintain one's physique, and then what does it take to improve one's physique. I think to maintain my physique, honestly, I could probably get away with just eating twice a day. I feel like I would get pretty hungry though if I actually only ate twice a day. I tend to get really hungry at night if I've not eaten a lot in that day. So on an average day, I'll have 2 substantial meals and then 1 snack. Maybe the phrase snack is misleading. What I do aim for is basically having 3 distinct servings of protein throughout the day. If I'm in a period of time where I'm focusing really heavily on improving the physique, that range of meals per day is going to shift to somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 meals a day, with 4 feedings a day really being that sweet spot. A lot of my clients in the past have kind of joked when I use the phrase feeding, because they're like, oh, you think I'm like an animal or something, but feeding just refers to an eating. But I think a lot of people, they view snacks or just eating here and there as not a meal, so it's not a feeding. That's why I use the phrase feeding. It's anytime that you're eating, right? A feeding is anytime that you're eating. So it doesn't have to be a sit-down big meal. It's literally any food. So for instance, I might wake up and in the morning I'll have fried rice. A lot of the time for dinner, I'll have rice with chicken and vegetables. Back before the inflation recession, I could afford to eat salmon a few times a week, and then I would eat chicken on the other meals. Now I eat mostly chicken just because salmon ramen is super expensive. I need more YouTube subs, and then maybe I'll change my diet based on finances, right? But yeah, so for right now, a lot of the time I'll have some chicken, rice, and vegetables. At night for dinner, I'll save a bit of leftover chicken and rice, but not the vegetables, so that way the next morning I'll put some fresh vegetables into it, and then I'll have chicken fried rice with new vegetables. I don't like eating old vegetables because once vegetables are cooked, nutrients in them start to get degraded a bit, and then if you cook the vegetables and leave them overnight, it's just often really unappetizing by the morning. So that's a good takeaway tip if you are not meal prepping a week in advance, but just like a day in advance. I just like to save my rice and chicken from the day before, but not vegetables, because vegetables just don't last as well overnight, especially once they're cooked. An average day of eating might be that leftover rice and chicken with fresh vegetables for the morning meal. That's my meal number one. And then meal number two is either I'll push it all the way until an early dinner around 5 p.m., 4 p.m., something like that, where I'll have the dinner I described, some type of usually brown rice, a variety of vegetables, and then a protein source, whatever your preference is. There's meal two, and then meal three might be something like some eggs, usually sourdough bread, maybe some spinach cooked on the pan while the pan is still hot from the eggs, something like that. So that could be a third meal. Alternatively, I'll sometimes have a secondary feeding after the first meal, so I'll go that first meal one of the fried rice that I described. Maybe the second meal is a snack of 1 or 2 pieces of fruit with Greek yogurt, maybe a protein bar. That's not really like a full sit-down meal, but it may actually have 40 or 50 grams of protein if you're eating enough Greek yogurt, protein bar. Then you have some fruits in there for your vitamins and fiber content, so that could be an intermediate feeding there, and then that would push the dinner into a later third meal. So however you organize it is going to depend on your schedule and how much time you have throughout the day to put each feeding. But yeah, for me, about 2 more substantial meals and then 1 feeding. I've found that the 3 meal a day paradigm is sufficient for me to maintain my body weight. If I was going to try to add body weight, I might bump it up to 4 or 5 feedings a day, but definitely at least 3. I would not expect to see any meaningful increase to body weight eating only twice a day. You're probably going to want to be at least 3 substantial meals, or maybe 2 meals, 2 feedings, that type of paradigm. So I think to increase your body weight, you definitely want to aim for anywhere from 3 to 5 feedings a day. It just might be stressful on the body to try to hit a calorie surplus just from 2 really big meals in a day, right? That's asking a lot of yourself, might run into digestive issues. I think 2 kind of substantial meals and then 2 smaller feedings, that might be the way to go if you're trying to gain weight but not overwhelm yourself with food at any one sitting. Also, the muscle protein synthesis curves throughout the day, like the peaks and valleys within an individual day time frame, are going to be superior when you have the same protein amount broken up into multiple feedings. What I mean there is if person A has, let's say, 150 grams of protein broken across 5 meals, they might have a slightly superior net muscle gain loss compared to person B who had 150 grams of protein, but they divided it into 2 meals, like a really big, 80 grams of protein, 70 grams of protein. That person might have a less favorable physiologic outcome than the individual who divided their same amount of protein per day across 4 to 5 meals. So hopefully that explains a bit of eating frequency. Of course, if you want to gain weight, you're going to want to be in a surplus. If you want to stay the same weight, you probably want to be roughly maintenance. It's really hard to be at exact maintenance, right? So you're going to be plus or minus a couple hundred calories, and it'll probably average out as the weeks go on. If you weigh yourself and you're going up, then obviously you weren't at maintenance, you're in a slight surplus, and if you're losing weight, then of course you're in a slight deficit. And those numbers are always changing based on your activity levels, how much you fidget, how much you move your hands when you're talking, all of these things. The next portion of the question, what supplements do I take right now? I'm actually not taking very many supplements at all. So the number one supplement that I take is caffeine. I make coffee. I make enough to last throughout the day, so I'll have a few cups of coffee throughout the whole day. So we got coffee. Caffeine is probably the highest frequency supplement that I consume. Helps me talk fast. Then after that, I'd say that I take the Trader Joe's probiotic. I take one in the morning and one at night. I just feel like it helps with my digestion and overall immune system. There's a lot of different benefits to taking a probiotic, so it might be worth finding one that you enjoy. I do take it in pill form, but I have heard, and current research may suggest, that probiotics may be more effective when taken in their food form, right? So things like sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurts that have not been flash pasteurized, flash pasteurized fermented foods, essentially that have not been heat treated or flash pasteurized, because that will kill off most of the probiotic bacteria within them. I just take it in pill form for convenience, right? So that's probably the second supplement that I take. I'd say the third supplement that I take is vitamin D. I take anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 IUs of vitamin D3 each day, usually in the morning with the either after my first meal or before the first meal. Yeah, I take vitamin D each day. And then after that, I take a few kind of more obscure supplements. I take turmeric roughly once every other day. It seems the research is a bit out on that still. I guess the WHO suggests that if you take turmeric every day, it may be harmful to the liver, and the thresholds that they set for daily consumption are actually quite low. The safe daily threshold for turmeric consumption that the WHO sets is actually less than the amount in one capsule from Trader Joe's. So I would just take the Trader Joe's capsules every other day or once every 3 days if you want to incorporate it. You know, maybe the WHO is wrong about turmeric consumption, but maybe they're right. So I guess you don't want to just overdo it and risk harming your organs or something. I'm not sure whether it does harm your organs or whether it doesn't. I'm sure there's physiologic differences in different humans in different subsections of based on where your genetics come from in the world. Different people can process different amounts of turmeric per unit of time. Maybe that has to do with why the internet gives such wildly varying figures in how much of this is actually safe to consume regularly. So there does seem to not really be a consensus on that, but the WHO does set that safe daily consumption level at a very low level. I think it's something like 100 or 200 milligrams a day, and I think the Trader Joe's capsules are either 300 or 500 milligrams, so it's more than the safe daily tolerable intake, which is quite strange. Without going too in depth there, I do take turmeric every once in a while, once every few days. I was taking it every day before I realized that it was harmful. Yeah, anytime you incorporate a new supplement or anything, just make sure that you do a bit of research on it and figure out if it's safe, of course, and safe for you, and just do a bit of research about it. And then besides turmeric, I take olive leaf extract as a general antioxidant. It's pretty cheap. I've heard some reasonably good stuff about it. I guess don't take large doses of antioxidants before you train or right after you train, right? It's going to impair the ability to disrupt your homeostasis. It's going to impair the ability to create damage to the muscle tissues. It may also blunt the training response to your training. Taking high dose antioxidants close to your training times is going to be counterproductive. So what I would do is just take it as far in the day away from whenever you're training, and that way you can get most of the benefits of the training and most of the benefits of the supplement consumption. The order in which I organize the supplements is probably also in order of like most useful to least useful for me. I think the caffeine keeps me alive, and then the probiotic, I think it is probably an order of magnitude more beneficial, for me at least, than the other supplements. And then I think, well, actually vitamin D is actually definitely also up there. So I'd say the caffeine, vitamin D, probiotics, they're all pretty high ranked for me. And then moving down the list, the turmeric and olive leaf extract, they're probably much less necessary, and if I took them out, I would probably not notice a big difference or any difference. I also periodically will take pre-workout. I take Gorilla Mode. I bought a bunch of it in bulk, so I just have a lot of it at home. If I was going to go back, I probably wouldn't, because it has a lot of artificial sweeteners in it. It seems as if the research would suggest that artificial sweeteners are not harmful for you, but most of the studies studying it, you know, they could have been bought out by the artificial sweetener companies. It's a bit hard to say. Maybe the jury is still out on that one, and maybe more evidence will be uncovered as we move into the future. Maybe we just don't have a concrete understanding of that yet. I generally try to avoid consuming artificial sweeteners. I will still consume them. Obviously, I'm not going to throw away all the pre-workout that I have. Whenever I can, I'll avoid it. I'll try to avoid doing it every day. Maybe if it's once every few days, that mitigates any potential downside. Notice that I say potential downside. I'm not claiming that I know that it's harmful, more that I'm just suspicious. And then besides that pre-workout, I will take whey protein. Really, whatever whey protein is the cheapest that you also tolerate well. If you're lactose intolerant, maybe take whey protein isolate. Whey protein isolate basically has the lactose either pre-broken down with enzymes or removed. I believe it has it removed. So if you're lactose intolerant, either fully or partially, you may be able to process whey isolate more effectively. So that's basically all the supplements that I'm taking right now. Some of them I don't even take on a daily basis. Some of them I do take once once or twice a day or more, like caffeine, probiotics. A lot of those I take once a day, and then some of those I take even less frequently than once a day, such as the turmeric, pre-workout, things like that. I don't take those too often anymore. At one point in my life, I was taking pre-workout every single day. I actually got to a point where I was drinking 2 Bang Energies in a day, so my caffeine consumption might have been like 600 or 700 milligrams a day. I guess the American Heart Association, WHO, various organizing bodies, they seem to suggest that you don't want to exceed 400 milligrams of caffeine per day on a consistent basis, and if you're not acclimated to caffeine consumption, even 300 milligrams is going to feel like a lot. That can make you jittery, it can give you heart palpitations, things like that. Palpitations. Basically, you want to ramp up your caffeine consumption slowly, but even if you do have a high tolerance, taking really high doses of caffeine on a day-to-day basis, longitudinally over time, it may be unsustainable and it may have some adverse health effects. Don't try to force supplements on anybody, obviously, but somebody who doesn't consume caffeine, it's very normal for them to react differently. Yeah, use small amounts at first, very gradually increase. Make sure you don't have any contraindications or any reasons why you wouldn't want to be taking it. So the next question is, where do I get my inspiration from? I'd say that the first fitness influencer that really inspired me was probably Bradley Martin, just because I saw him doing all the vlogging, living the fitness lifestyle. He had some words of influence, but it wasn't really like heavily science-based. It was more just like a person enjoying their life and seeing what they could draw from the whole fitness thing, living that lifestyle. I think he lives a good lifestyle. He's a good role model. He managed to build his own gym. That was probably my first inspiration to kind of really convince me to make fitness content. But as far as exercise and fitness, I'd say I look up to mostly calisthenics athletes now. People both in terms of the skill work and then people who can perform really heavy weighted calisthenics. I look up to those guys mostly for inspiration because at this point in my life, I know that I don't think I'm gonna be a bodybuilder. I've never taken steroids. I don't think that I would want to incur the health risk. Obviously, if there was something that could make you extremely jacked with no needles, no organ damage, no health risk, then sure, yeah, I would obviously, who wouldn't do that? You just get super jacked with no downside, but it's not worth the risk. I don't like needles and I just would not do steroids, so I'm not going to be a bodybuilder. Powerlifting, I don't really like squatting or deadlifting. I still do it for health every once in a while, but competitively, not going to be a powerlifter. So right now, I look up mostly to just general health and fitness people, also calisthenics athletes, of course, mostly just a general person living their life, right? So those are some of the people that inspire me. All right, so the final question in this video request was how to put together a training program. So I think this video has gone on quite long, so I'm just going to give you a brief summary of how to put together a training program. But if you want a more in-depth method of how to put together a program, I do have a whole video on how to put together a program, so I'll link that in the description, but it's like a 30-40 minute video, so I'll give you a brief overview right now. The first thing that you want to determine is essentially what fitness characteristic are you trying to improve? What outcome do you want from this program? That's going to be the first thing because it helps us determine the direction of how this training program is going to look. The second thing we really want to ask is how many days a week can you train? What frequency can you reasonably expect to make it into the gym or train wherever you're training? And that's essentially going to help us know how to distribute your workload across the training week. Is there anything that's going to get in the way of that? Or where may you have peak energy? Where will you be tired from work? Things like that. How are we going to organize your training? The third thing is what kind of training style have you responded well to in the past and not responded well to in the past? This can be things like volume. Do you like a lot of sets or fewer sets? Intensity. Do you like being really close to failure, further from failure? Do you like higher rep sets, lower rep sets? How have you historically responded to training? Those are going to be some important questions to ask when designing your program. And then after that, I mean, that kind of ties into specific exercises. What are we going to fill it out with? What key areas of the body are you trying to improve? What are you willing to just kind of let stay the same while focusing on other areas? Those are all important questions, kind of ties into point number one. That's most of the key points that I look at when designing a program. How many sets a week do you want to do? How many days are we dividing them across? What exercises are we going to fill it out with? And then after that, we get into things like actual execution of exercises, technique development, things like that. Those are going to be more things that I'd have to see videos of or see you in person, whatever it is. But hopefully those key points help point you in the right direction for how to design your next training program. And I will link the full video that I have on designing training programs and how I've designed some of my training programs as an example. I'll link that in the comment section. Once again, thank you for watching this video. It was a bit longer, but it was a subscriber request, and thank you for requesting this video topic. I enjoy talking about this stuff, and as always, please comment down below with requests, and until next time, don't let anybody stop your gains.